TECHNART is an international conference which is held biannually at major European centers. So just the fact that we are now hosting it here in Catania is for us a major result and recognition for the great value in the context of the applied sciences in the cultural heritage domain that we have in Catania. It gathers all the scientists, art historians and museum curators who are involved in the study of works of arts and objects which comprise our cultural heritage, both at the national level but also internationally. We have gathered here today over 500 scientists from across the globe representing 52 different countries.
I am professor at the new University of Lisbon, and I started this conference in 2007. This one is the 5th edition of the conference.
My name is Robin Verlang. I'm Head of Conservation and Scientific Research at the Rijksmuseum.
With this conference, we tried to make the bridge between technology, analytical techniques, and art. So this was the main idea of the conference.
When I was a child, my best friend's father took me to the gallery and told me that paintings had been made using crushed minerals and crystals. And that was a revelation to me. And I thought, I want to know more about that.
Sicily is a region which contains a large part of the Italian cultural heritage protected by UNESCO. And I think that the research world can't afford but to be closely linked to this treasure.
A Catania, l'università insieme agli enti di ricerca.
In Catania, the university, as well as research institutes, are dedicated to the various areas of research which involve the conservation and appreciation of cultural assets.
Diciamo delle tecniche di conservazione, ma lavoriamo anche ovviamente.
We are working on the front of, shall we say, conservation techniques, but we're also obviously working at the historical level. The appreciation of these assets in aspects which include the financial, and we've recently started activities with the Cultural Heritage District in Catania. So Catania is really on the front line, I think, in terms of research and technological innovation. It's at the cutting edge.
Anche sulla frontiera.
This environment, which is characterized by strong interactions between different communities which hail both from the university departments as well as research institutes such as the CNR or INFN, and I believe that indeed TECHNART has gathered so many researchers from across the globe is in some way proof that these synergies can work. From a strictly scientific point of view, it is an extremely important period to start validating and understanding new research which is being undertaken here in Catania, especially in the area of new analysis methods which are able to be done in a non-destructive way on works of art, and which even involve private enterprise from the Sicilian region. So I think it's an extremely important period for us and all of those who work in this sector in Catania. The CNR's Istituto per i Beni Archeologici e Monumentali has its headquarters in Catania and has collaborated for a long time with the Istituto Nazionale di Fisica Nucleare. The main scientific mission of IBAM is archaeology and research in the archaeological sciences domain. But these days, archaeology needs a set of multidisciplinary approaches, and therefore chemical, physical, and petrographic investigation of our artifacts and our documents will become really extraordinary and essential for understanding the past better. The Landis Laboratory was born 20 years ago now, thanks to the intuition of certain people who can be considered the fathers of this laboratory. In particular, Professor Pappalardo, who through his group and the collaboration with the CNR and the Institute for Archaeological and Monumental Heritage, have reached a point of excellence. We have been able to work with several unique artifacts, such as the scrolls of the Dead Sea, or the of St. Francis, or the treasure of Misurata in Libya. We've developed instruments which are both portable, so that we can bring them along to those places where the relics are not transportable, or to use our accelerators, and thus bring the artifacts here to the laboratory, giving us the possibility to conduct analyses which are unique internationally. In several cases, nuclear techniques are the only auxiliary techniques which can search for and both find the origin and the history of the artifact, as well as the authenticity thereof, without destroying, damaging, or contaminating the artifact in any way. Working in museums, what we try to do is interface with art historians and restorers using analytical chemistry and physics applied to the issue of restoration, but also issues of art history and authenticity. The case I presented today at the conference was, for example, that of Japanese prints, wherein we see a point where a break is made from the past, with the entry onto the scene of synthetic colors in the Japanese prints of the 19th century. We've been, for the first time, able to use techniques based on Raman spectroscopy, so using lasers and silver nanoparticles to determine those components from microscopic samples. This type of work not only informs us about society, about changes and what is happening with the contact between Japan and the West, but also allows us to clarify the dates of the prints based, for example, on a comparison between the dates of the color patents, seeing as they were industrially produced. At the Metropolitan Museum, we have a scientific laboratory for the analysis of artwork within museums. So techniques such as electron microscopy are available and used directly by the scientists which work with the conservators and restorers in the museum. In Italy and in Europe, I see a fundamental difference where the main part of the research is undertaken by universities, so the advanced knowledge and research contained therein are made available to the museum.
Being in my department, there's 80 people right now, both conservators and conservation scientists or scientists, and we all work together very jointly, where we realize that we have to work together, because if we don't work together, we're going to miss the whole point. The point is that when we look at the artworks, there's not just one dimension that we can focus on. It's really all dimensions. So both from, let's say, the humanities point of view, a conservation point of view, and a scientific point of view, we have to focus on the object.
When we examine artists' materials, we forget about the ideas. The primary purpose of these art objects is to convey ideas to people. We oftentimes forget about the materiality of the object, but if it is our interest to preserve these ideas of the artist and to share what the artist is trying to convey to the people. So the technical support provided to the examination of art is of vital interest to preserving the ideas that artists like to express and convey to their audience. So in essence, that's where my career has been focused. And if I had to, in a very general way, identify a contribution, that would be it.
What we use is light that is beyond the visible, beyond the red, into the infrared. And the trick is, by using light at that wavelength, we can minimize the scattering of the light pigments, the pigments themselves, and minimize the absorbance of the pigments. And that allows us to penetrate the paint layer, to reveal the preparatory sketches, the original drawings, as well as paint compositional changes. And by using very, very narrow parts of that region of the infrared, we can get very clear images. So for example, we can see the original drawings, or we can see pounce marks for transferred images, or in the case of Picasso in the Blue Period, we're able to get beautiful images of the original paintings that he modified or covered up.
In the 1600s and the 1700s, there was already an interest in studying works of art by the methods that were available then. Of course, nowadays we have great technological developments, from medicine to nanotechnology, from which we try to make the most of. It certainly is the development of all these non-invasive techniques that allows us to achieve technical images that go below the surface of the paintings and explain the incipient decay. These techniques are of great benefit today for learning more and more. I must say that my first passion was art, but then the interest in the materials used came very soon after, especially since reading Primo Levi and the periodic system, and the concept that chemistry tells us a lot about life. And art is a beautiful expression of life, therefore putting the two together was very natural.
With the development of modern instrumental methods, we're able to see a lot more at a much lower level. So we're able to look for minute amounts of different kinds of constituents of the whole work of art. So we're able to see details about the colorants and about the painter's binding mediums that they used, and put this all together with a much more specificity than we could in the past. So we're challenging ourselves to understand the history of the use of materials, the original colors of the materials, and more about the sophistication of the way that the artists employed them, not just what they are, which we could do in the past.
I think the place, the story of the place, makes a good combination for a tremendous success.